Okay, that would have been disastrous. Okay, back to where we were. I was a pole dance teacher for 15 years. That's how I started my own business. I've hosted several sold out retreats here in Nashville. I've hosted a retreat in Bali. I have another one coming up in Thailand. So I had a really lovely career doing that for the last 15 years. I'm an entrepreneur and a mentor. So that's a little bit more about me. And the goal for today, and sort of the goal for the curriculum that I'm developing, is to teach high achieving women how to use their feminine powers of attraction to attract their best personal and professional lives. That is the main mission for my teachings, which are in the Pure Elegance School. Okay. So we're going to talk about somewhat of an awkward truth here, okay? We as women are not smaller men. So I want to show you a clip here.
What book would you recommend to every
Can you hear him talking?
entrepreneur must read? Invisible.
Let me know in the chat before okay, perfect. All right. So I want you to think about kind of that statement that I just made. Women are not smaller men. So I want you to think about that as we listen.
What book would you recommend every entrepreneur must read? Invisible Women is a brilliant book by
I've never heard of that one.
Creato Paris. It's about how the world has been designed by men for men.
Oh, I have heard about this, but it's never been recommended.
Shocking, and it's like in terms
Invisible
of like
Women.
what we've learned. Like we made changes. I read it a few years ago. In channel side, it really changed how we approach so many things. Like it's women die much more often in car crashes because seatbelts were designed for the male body.
Yes, I've heard
And
this.
drugs are tested on men, and women have always been assumed, or were usually assumed to be just small men. So like medicines are less effective. It's about the biases that are built into every product. And as we're building out AI and all of these new technologies, you have these biases becoming more ingrained. It's absolutely fascinating and fundamentally changed how I think about building products and trying to root out biases. And the fact that you're aware of bias, you think, I won't be anymore. You actually get more biased in many cases. So that's brilliant.
It's phenomenal. Every time we have women entrepreneurs on the show, like just the stories they have, and you're just going, that is absolutely shocking. And since we've had our daughter, I'm just so much more aware of my actions and like the future actions of like, how do you make the world a little bit better for her? So I'm definitely going to read that. That's a brilliant recommendation. Thank you so much.
So I don't know if you caught it, but he said that seat belts are more dangerous for women because they're designed for the bodies of men. In medicine, oftentimes women are just assumed to be smaller men. So the medications and the research that's being done is often tested out on men and then just applied to women. And this bias has existed for so long, and it's become part of our conditioning to just operate as smaller men in our lives and at work. And I personally feel that as a result of this, we are missing out on a whole complementary and unique skill set. And that is what I call the feminine advantage. Oh, Roxette says that's horrible. It's just the truth. It's the truth, and it's something that I think we all need to be aware of so that we can understand how to bring it back into balance. That is part of this conversation. So instead of staying in the horrible, let's think about what we can do. Because again, that's just the truth. It's not to make anyone feel bad or anything like that. It's so that we can have this conversation today. So you can understand where I'm coming from. When we talk about leadership and, being successful and everything like that, we're often talking about it in the framework of operating like a man. So you have to understand that a lot of our conditioning defaults to that setting. And so we as women, or anybody who seeks to embody feminine energy, is often defaulting, especially at work, to the male standard and the male bias that has existed. So I would like to talk about leveraging the feminine advantage and bringing things back into balance. Let me make sure I can see the chat. Where'd it go? Hang on. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is where I'd like you to either reflect if you have a notebook or drop it in the chat. What comes up for you thinking about this concept of invisible women in our society, especially for our conversation today? So if that was brand new information for you, what comes up for you? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Backbones at work and at home, but men get the credit. Going right to it, Chloe. Women deserve better. Thank you, Kay Bennett. I'm really interested in actually personally reading that book. Give you a moment for anyone else. What comes up for you when you think about the concept of invisible women? Just kind of being forgotten as we design the world. So you can think of this too in terms of, you know, even public restrooms, right? When they don't have purse hooks or a trash can for any sanitary waste or anything like that, right? That's also an example. Not being seen when doing the same as others and needing to do more to get noticed like everyone else and to get the same recognition and pay. Interesting, because I worked with strong only women team for 7 years, and I often felt like I needed the male perspective, like something was missing. I also felt like I had to think like a man to participate. That sounds like an interesting conversation. I'd love to hear more about that. But thank you, Ubiquitous Pole Dancer and Rosa. These are good. These are good reflections. What I want you to focus on the most is that, again, the default setting a lot of times has been to think of women as smaller men. And if we're living in a society that is set up that way, then we sometimes internalize those beliefs and we start treating ourselves as smaller men and starting to disconnect more and more from the feminine. So that's the point that I want to make in talking about this feminine advantage and why we want to bring it back. So here are some examples of the feminine advantage in real time. Research now shows that patients with female physicians have better outcomes, including better mortality rates, which is pretty significant, right? That's the ultimate factor right there. Why do they tend to have better outcomes with their patients? Because they're spending more time with their patients. They're not rushing as much. They're emphasizing communication. Communication is a big part of your feminine advantage. They're following evidence-based guidelines. They are focusing on preventative care. So they're placing a higher emphasis and premium on preventative or nurturing measures, which can lead to better health outcomes overall in the long term, right? So they're taking a more holistic approach. They're seeing the whole person, the whole patient versus just the symptom. So this is the feminine advantage. These are leveraging traits and characteristics that are typically associated with the feminine and now showing up in the workplace and being advantageous. This is from Forbes. You can go look this up on Forbes right now. It was published March 31st of last year. New research, women are more effective than men in all leadership measures. And then if you go further into the article, these are the top 5 characteristics that they were saying make women more effective than men in all leadership measures. The first being able to relate. So much of feminine energy is based in communication and connection and relating to others in a genuine, personal, and authentic way. And so that is one of the top reasons that they are more effective. The level of self-awareness. That's the second ranked trait right here that Forbes is reporting on. Authenticity. Being authentic can be tied to your intuition for sure, right? Systems awareness. Seeing the whole system. Being able to think about how the team is going to function as a whole. Being aware of things that might go wrong, because it's like playing a Jenga game, right? You take one piece out from the bottom, the whole thing's gonna fall down. And so you're seeing the whole picture. You're aware of how the systems work in harmony with one another. And then achieving, because we are high achieving, like Ubiquitous or whoever it was said, we're doing the same work, if not more. Achievement is not the issue here. But I just wanted to point out, there is a feminine advantage, and it's starting to show up. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're already working. A lot of it's just not being paid. And so a lot of times people will say, well, I don't want to be not taken seriously if I'm too feminine. And every time I hear that, I think about these statistics, because just because something is not being paid in our economy, it doesn't mean that it's not valuable. So I want you to know that women carry out about 75% of the world's unpaid care and domestic work. This is unpaid labor that requires skills such as childcare, elder care, cooking, cleaning, and other household duties, right? How expensive is childcare right now? It's extremely expensive. That is a skill. Elder care, caring for elderly people, that is a skill. Cooking, cleaning, other household duties, these are all skills that are going unpaid. So don't let anyone tell you that being feminine is weak or that it's not going to be taken seriously. I said it's a scam. Because in my opinion, not compensating for this work and devaluing it and saying that, you know what I mean, it doesn't require any skill, has set us up to think that we don't deserve what we're asking for, and that's just not true. So estimates indicate that if this unpaid labor were to be assigned to a monetary value, it could contribute to up to 10 to 13% of the global GDP, highlighting its substantial economic impact despite not being compensated. It is a huge part of what's holding up the world. So I think we're coming out of a time where we have viewed women as smaller men, and therefore we've internalized a little bit of that. And the work that is very relationally based, such as childcare, elder care, and everything else, has been systemically undervalued and gone unpaid for women. And so we are not necessarily in the position to be tapping into our power as much as we could. And I want to talk about ways that we can do that today. So what happens when we neglect the feminine, especially at work? We get into exhaustion. We get into a place of burnout and depletion. We're constantly rushing. We are being less mindful and leaving less room for grace, working up your nervous system into a frenzy, constantly filling your body with cortisol, which then leads to the burnout, exhaustion, and depletion. We get to a place of personal imbalance because we are disconnecting from those very parts of ourselves that actually give us an advantage, things like our intuition and creativity. And we have a decreased connection with others. Women are wonderful collaborators and are able to connect with empathy. And so when we neglect our feminine side and we try to put ourselves into a box and try to operate from an energy that is not ours, that wasn't designed for us to operate from, then a lot of times we end up here. How do I know this? Because this is what I talk to women about all day long. Feeling burnt out, feeling depleted, feeling like they're rushing through their lives, feeling completely disconnected from their feminine side, from their intuition, their creativity, being afraid of making connections, not feeling socially graceful or socially confident, and sort of missing out on those pieces for sure. Rosa says, wow, neglected my feminine side for sure. So what is the end result? The end result is loss of your feminine radiance and powers of attraction, AKA stress. You're living in a state of constant stress. So a little reflection, I'd like you to write in the chat again, in what ways do you feel disconnected from your feminine energy? And what negative consequences are you experiencing at the moment, if you feel comfortable sharing? I'll give you a moment to think. In what ways do you feel disconnected from your feminine energy? And what are some of the negative consequences that you are experiencing currently? And you don't have to go into heavy detail. You can just give us a little share if you want to keep some things private. Trying to think and act like a man, I burn out all my wires, so I quit my job, and now I feel without a purpose. Thank you so much for sharing. I feel very blocked and overwhelmed. All sense of steadiness is gone. That's huge. As a personal and group fitness trainer, my industry is usually run by men, and I have felt like I've had to compete with their energy to be successful. And we don't have the same energy. We're on different hormonal cycles. So you can't. My nutrition, I eat like my boyfriend and I don't listen to my body. I feel like I have to look uglier at conferences or client meetings so I don't get taken less seriously. And so men don't make comments about my looks. They still do. I hate to hear that. Learning the hormonal cycles in the last year, it has helped a lot. Yes, especially in the fitness industry. That's really important. Hormones are very, very important to learn about. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. So here's what I want to look at now. Let me get this out of the way. Why is radiance important? Why did I talk about the end result is losing your radiance? We are going somewhere here. So please give me the grace to arrive at our main point today. It's all going to make sense, okay? Why did I say the end result is being stressed out, depleted, and losing your radiance and your powers of attraction? So let's look on the left over here. We have a neglected field of dried up plants, right? Looks like they've been burnt to a crisp by the sun and they haven't received any water in weeks, and it just has not been taken care of. And then we have this garden over here on the right, and it is flourishing. It is thriving. And look at how well taken care of it is. How nice would it be to go and visit this garden? And now imagine yourself standing here. Which one is going to attract more visitors? I feel like a dried plant sometimes. Yes, I know this is what I'm talking about. When we neglect our feminine, this is where we end up. Which one is going to attract more visitors? The second one. You could say that the second garden is radiant, right? It's radiating beautiful, abundant energy. Look at all the different plants and how healthy they are. It's radiating health, and it's radiating being taken care of. Look at how the mulch is keeping the weeds at bay, and you know how the grass is trimmed and everything's neat, right? So we used to be told, I don't know why that picture is not loading, but sometimes it does that. We used to be told that being feminine and attending charm school or finishing school was to make you proper and more appealing to men, right? Every time I post online, somebody is going to make a comment on one of my videos. I would never do all that simply for a man's attention, not realizing that that's not the point. Times have changed. There are benefits to embodying grace and charm that don't have to be taught in the same way or for the same purpose anymore. We're going beyond just trying to please men. We're pleasing ourselves now. And femininity is not a weakness or anything to be ashamed of. But for such a long time, we've been told that these powers of attraction are just for men. And so we're putting it in one category, and we're not using it in the other categories of our life where grace and charm would only be beneficial. So we're kind of updating this model. So now I want to introduce the concept of soft power. So the class was titled The Feminine Advantage, Unleashing Your Soft Power at Work. What is soft power? So the exact definition is the ability to shape the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. Look at the word. Attraction. Shaping the preferences of others through your appeal and your attraction. Let me go back. This is the exact same thing they were doing in the charm schools. But the point was they were trying to make you prim and proper and kind of fit into a mold that also wasn't necessarily healthy for women, because it was restrictive in a way and oppressive in a way. But the idea is the same. Your ability to shape the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. Now we get to decide how we want to develop our soft power in this current modern day landscape. We don't have to do it the way that we did it before. And soft power is a term that was coined by a political scientist. His name is Joseph Nye, as, sorry about the typo, as the ability of a country to influence others through attraction and persuasion, using its cultures, values, and policies. It's about winning hearts and minds rather than using force. So this is a very high level strategy that is used in foreign relations. This is how high level this concept is about soft power. And in my opinion, it's naturally linked to feminine energy because it's all about tapping into your ability to attract and influencing and using the art of persuasion and not forcing. So when you think about soft power in terms of foreign relations, this is like spreading popular music, movies, promoting ideals like democracy and human rights, although there could be some questions there about, promoting and colonization and everything like that. But tourism is another example of soft power. So making your country so inviting that people want to visit, it creates goodwill. That is much different than threatening a country that, you have to get along with them. So think about the shift in energy and the shift in approach. Soft power is all about being the honey that attracts the bees, right? Instead of forcing the bees to cooperate, you attract them. So this is something that we're already naturally doing, but we've been told to only do it in one category. And that's why we're missing out on this skill set that actually could be used to make your whole life easier. So some non-examples or examples of hard power in terms of your energy or at your place of work. If you're very controlling, yes, attract the bees. Micromanaging. So if if you're in a leadership position, even if you just have one person that you are leading, you are in a leadership position, you don't want to micromanage. Trying to control outcomes and people, being inflexible, stifling your own or others' creativity, being very strict and excessive focus on compliance of policies, right? No, it has to be done exactly this way and in this order, otherwise you're going to get punished, that sort of thing. Being authoritative. One person has all the power from the top down. So that's not a leadership style that you want to have. Disciplinary, using punishment to enforce standards. So instead of motivating people to reach the standard, you're going to punish them if they don't and use disciplinary actions. So those are examples when we start talking about leadership and work dynamics. Those are examples of hard power, very authoritative, very disciplinary, very controlling, very strict. Okay. And we can have pieces of that in ourselves, especially in the controlling place, especially if if you haven't mastered your emotions, you can really be in a controlling place. You can really start to feel, like you want to go on a power trip and punish people. And that's just not a place that we want to be. Okay, so let me give you an example of how I have practiced soft power in my own career. So this example actually was from my very first year of teaching. And I have a lot of experience in classroom management, and I've done professional development trainings on classroom management and how to teach, which is really a crossover into leadership training, because it's group management. Leadership is managing the group. So this was in my very first year of teaching. I was 22 years old, and this is just a natural decision that I made at the time. So I had a student, let's call him Dale, and he kept forgetting to bring his book to class. And school policy said that he should be punished for forgetting his materials. Punishing him wasn't going to motivate him or solve the problem, because now he always got what he wanted, which was to not participate. Right? He wasn't bringing the book because he didn't want to participate in the class. So it would have made no sense for me to punish him because he's still not participating. So I actually decided, and I created a strategy. This was before I even knew anything about soft power, feminine energy, anything like that. This is just what I decided on my own, following my intuition at 22 years old. I started a campaign of sugar that he couldn't opt out of, and eventually it wasn't an issue anymore. So this is what I did. Every day when he sat down for class and I asked everybody to get their books and we were going to read aloud or something and he didn't have it, I'd say, "Oh, where's your book?" "I don't have it. I left it in my locker." I would say, "No problem. I have an extra one for you." And I would go back and get an extra book for him and put it on his desk. And then I'd say, "Oh, Dale, could you read the next part?" He wouldn't open it. I would just put it on his desk. "Oh, no problem. I've got an extra book. No worries." I'd put it on his desk. He wouldn't open it. And then I'd say, "Oh, Dale, could you read the next part?" "I don't know what page we're on." So instead of saying, "Dale, I've already said we're on page 62, we're reading about blah, blah, blah," you know what I mean? Pay attention. Instead of doing that, I said, "Oh, no problem. We're on page 62. It's the next paragraph." And I would just wait with the expectation of, oh, you're going to open the book and go to the next page and start reading. And then when it came to doing work in class, because there might be questions in the book, I'd say, "Okay, we already read the passage together. I want you to answer these questions and I'm going to come around and check in with everyone." He would say, "Oh, I don't have a pencil." "No problem. I've got a pencil." If he didn't feel like writing it down, "You know what? I just want to hear what you think, Dale. Just tell me. I'll write it down. You just tell me your answer." And I would write it down for him. And I did this consistently for a couple of weeks. I would say maybe 2 or 3. Not all the time. It didn't take up very much of my energy. It really didn't. I would just weave it into class normally. Every time he tried to opt out, thinking that he was going to get in trouble and get yelled at, I would just make it easy for him to join in. And I had this energy of, no, I really want to hear what you think. I really want to hear you read it aloud. I really want you to be in this class. I really want to include you, not exclude you and punish you. And I never had another issue with him for the rest of the year. Period. That is soft power. That is using a different strategy, right? So the mantra here, when you're thinking about tapping into your feminine energy at work and using soft power, it's how can I make this easier? Punishing the student would have just been another thing for me to keep track of, right? "Oh, you haven't brought your book 3 days in a row. Now I'm calling your parents. Now you have to stay in from recess. Now I have to keep track and make notes." And it's just an extra thing that I have to do. And it would have soured the mood in the room because we would have gotten into a power struggle and he would have sat there like a dark cloud and had nothing to do and continued to talk to his friends about how stupid everything was. So the feminine asks, how can I make this easier? Not to be lazy, but to be more efficient and to do so with grace. Leveraging the feminine advantage and unleashing your soft power is about seeing options and solutions and using strategies creatively and following your intuition. The feminine, her power and influence shifts the energy in the room to her favor, and it's usually for the benefit of everyone else as well. That strategy made my entire classroom so cohesive. Once I got to a certain place with my students, I didn't have an issue with them for the rest of the year. Maybe we would get a little too goofy, but I was doing it too. But I had no problem with the classroom for the rest of the year. I didn't want to start off, souring the mood and turning myself into a taskmaster, trying to control everything. trying to control whether the book was coming out of his locker and making it to the class. I don't have time for that. How can I make this easier? Through appeal and attraction, she gets what she wants. He could not opt out. I wasn't going to let him opt out. And eventually he became a functioning member of the class, just like everyone else. And I got what I wanted, and I didn't have to use force. So, your next reflection, how could soft power benefit you at work? Now that we understand the definition of soft power, we've heard an example. We're starting to think about the feminine as well. How could soft power benefit you at work? This is healing. I have felt so excluded sometimes that I had to force myself to complete things and been so hard on myself. Now I know that there is another way versus the hard one. Yes. I'm not working now, but I love the idea of making people feel included and not excluded. Community and harmony. Because the top-down disciplinary approach, again, you have to think about what is the outcome that I want. Together is always better. When we're working together in harmony, we're always stronger and we're more creative. So creating ego battles with people and punishing them is not going to serve me as a leader. It doesn't mean that we don't take disciplinary action, but is forgetting a book a disciplinary action? You know what I mean? Is that I worked at one school where we were actually required to punish the children for not wearing belts, which is something they didn't have control over because they didn't have cars or money to go shopping for one. They were that young. So how, you know what I mean? And it was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. It was horrible. Working better with others and opening up opportunities. Yes. That top-down approach is what's making me not want to come back to work. I hear you. I hear you because again, I worked at a school system that was very punitive and I had to leave that environment because I could not be successful in it. I have a corporate job as an executive assistant and I work with men all day. I want to be able to unleash my feminine energy in this environment, but I don't know how. You can learn. You can learn. So, what are some characteristics, thank you all for sharing, of people with soft power? People with soft power typically have the following characteristics. Number one, anytime you look this up, especially when you're talking about personal characteristics, first thing that's always going to come up is charisma. Charisma is your natural ability to attract and inspire others with your charm. I want to feel confident to come back to work with soft power, and you will, Rosa. Yes. So charisma is first. That charm, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Effective communication. Again, it's not top-down hard power approach. It's not making demands. It's not making threats. It's not getting into arguments. Communication, 55% of it is our body language. That's what I talk about all the time. So over half of it you can master by refining your body language. Only 7% is the actual words, and we tend to overuse words. And I think women tend to over-explain themselves also. And so you're using all of these words, but that's only 7%. You want to master your body language and master your nonverbal communication, your tone, your pacing, etc. And that will help you develop your soft power. It's not just being able to speak and over explain, right? So communication, the art of communication, the art of persuading, the art of suggesting and influencing things to go in your favor. Empathy is very important for soft power. Being able to connect with others, integrity, your own personal integrity, being trustworthy and earning respect, cultural awareness, really that social and emotional intelligence, understanding that people come from different cultures, especially in the workplace, and that it's meant to be inclusive. Again, being that role model for being inclusive and having cultural awareness, and not living in a state where you believe, everybody has the same experiences as you. Visionary thinking, being creative, being a visionary, following your intuition. They articulate and motivate others with a compelling vision. Where does that vision come from? From your own creativity. Collaborative spirit. They foster teamwork and cooperation. So when you look up, what are some characteristics of people with soft power, these are some of the things that come up. And we're also going to look at feminine energy traits, and you're going to see where it overlaps. But I want to talk more about charisma, because that's always at number one. And I believe it is something that you can develop and learn. Charisma is a personal quality that enables an individual to attract, here we go with the word attract again, influence and inspire others through their presence, communication, and behavior. Your energetic presence, your communication skills, and how you conduct yourself, your behavior. Charisma is almost the exact definition of soft power, because you're attracting and influencing and getting the favor and the preference of others simply through your presence, your ability to communicate, and your behavior. Which all three of these you can change. All three of these you have power over. So if you're shrinking and you're feeling very awkward and you have a very rushed presence, you can work on that. You can become more charismatic by changing your energetic presence, by working on your body language, by working on your communication, knowing what questions to ask, working on your listening skills, working on connecting from the heart, and your overall behavior, working on your emotional regulation so that you don't get yourself into a worked up state all the time, becoming untriggerable so that you can stay calm and composed. These are all things that you can work on to become more charismatic. And then I also want to add, that charisma in a woman often incorporates an element of grace. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be graceful and elegant to be charismatic, but it sure helps. It sure helps. It will give you an advantage. This adds, this air of elegance and poise adds to your presence. Gracefulness in demeanor and conduct can enhance your charisma, drawing people in and leaving a positive impression. It's not just about confidence and charm, but also about the way that she carries herself with dignity and composure, even in challenging situations. This gracefulness contributes to her ability to inspire and influence others, making her a magnetic and respected figure in various social and professional contexts. So if you go back to the definition of soft power and you look here at charisma, attract, and magnetic, your powers of attraction as a woman are here for your advantage. But we keep thinking of it in terms of attracting and seducing a man, and limiting our understanding of how we can use our feminine energy. This is the point I'm trying to get across tonight. Because soft power, which is a foreign relations concept, right? A geopolitical concept is talking about increasing your attraction. So these high level politicians are talking about increasing your attraction as a country. They know the power of this. Being magnetic is a positive thing. It's time to embrace it. Being charming, being charismatic becomes easier when you take care of yourself. Think back to the garden. Which one do you want to visit? Thinking about foreign relations, which country do you want to visit? Do you want to go to the one that doesn't take care of itself and it's going to be a very difficult and not so wonderful experience? Or do you want to have an amazing tourist experience where you say, oh, I can't wait to go back and visit? It's easier to be charming when you take care of yourself, when you're confident. You can practice your way to confidence. Confidence is a renewable resource. When you like who you are, you have to heal the relationship with yourself. You have to really develop a strong sense of self-love. It's easier when you like others, when you're open and receptive to connections with others. It's so much easier to be charismatic and to exude that attractiveness and have that soft power when you like others and you're not afraid to connect with them. You're open to connections. You're having fun. It's pleasurable. You're living in your pleasure, which makes you easygoing. You're not the dry, crispy plant. You're easygoing because you're living in your pleasure, because you're taking care of yourself. So we go back to this, this image. One of these spaces has a lot more nurturing and care than the other. Which one do you think is going to attract more visitors? When you neglect yourself as a woman, you are going over here on the left side. We want to be over here. We want to be over here. We want to attract more visitors. Wondering how soft power people work with hard power people. Could this become exhausting? I don't know. I'll have to think about that, see if there's any research on that. But again, you are composed when you're in your soft power. So you have your composure. You focus on what you can control. You're not in control of other people who don't get it. You're in control of yourself. That's the point. So you are focused on cultivating your garden and cultivating your soft power and your influence and your persuasion and your attraction. You don't try to control other people. So I want you to do another reflection for me. Please list the qualities of the most charismatic person or people that you know. And if it happens to be a well-known individual, you can share it in the chat, like if it's a celebrity or an author or a public figure of some kind. But I want you to think for a moment of the characteristics and qualities of some of the most charismatic people that you know. And I'm thinking of somebody in the UK. Her name is Alison Hammond. And I'm completely obsessed with her. She is so charismatic because she is so funny and light-spirited. So that's an example. Go ahead and drop in the chat your own reflections. So somebody who kind of has that easygoing, light spirit, playful energy is very charismatic to me. Empathic, good listener, slow to anger, emotionally stable. They are their best self. Yes, Nadia, love that. Smiling, optimistic, uplifting, inclusive. Love that, Rosa. Okay, even thinking about these characteristics and reading them out loud, see how different it feels in your body to think about being around somebody like this. Stress-free. It's even fun to read these. Poised, eye contact, kind and non-judgmental, good listener, playful, calm, composed, easy to approach, respected. Marilyn Monroe, yes, yes. Her energy, good at many things because they're confident. They allow themselves to practice, right? Slow to anger, emotionally stable. I just want to highlight that one again. Not scared of failure. Yes. You know, they're the type of person, oh, I'll try it. Sure, I'll try it. And if I'm not good at it, it's okay. I remember once going to an event where we went to go do a dance class, and one of my friends, it was difficult for her. And I understood that, and I felt empathy, but she completely shut down. She completely shut down and withdrew herself from the group. And instead of saying, oh, this is a little bit more difficult than I expected, and just giving it a go, you know what I mean? Just completely withdrawing and going into a very negative space. So we want to be in a place where we're easygoing and confident, not that we're intentionally making a fool of ourselves, but we want to, you know what I mean? We're happy to participate and try things without the fear of being, you know what I mean, embarrassed beyond repair. Because you don't want to get in that energy that makes you withdraw and shut down. Thinking of so many people, Adele, Leah Sadu. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. I tried my best, but I trust you. Yes, so I want you to think about those examples. That is soft power. Each of those people that you were thinking of, or the characteristics that you were describing, help with that soft power, with the powers of attraction, right? So that's what we want to start cultivating within ourselves. Now, thinking of leveraging our feminine energy traits. So when you look up feminine energy and pull up a list of traits, here are some of the things that are going to come up. Nurturing energy, intuition, collaboration, creativity, adaptability. So you can see how all of these would help you at work. I feel like nurturing really belongs in the leadership category because you're nurturing energy. Ferris Bueller. I guess he was very charismatic, wasn't he? Your nurturing energy allows you to teach. I talk about nurturing energy, applying it to yourself in my Feminine Energy 101 course, and about tending to your own garden and learning to plant seeds and water them. And when you are mentoring and leading and guiding others, you are nurturing them. So that is part of your soft power, and your feminine advantage is your ability to nurture. Your intuition, your ability to collaborate, your creativity, your adaptability, being flexible, changing, because if you are a caregiver, which women so often are, we already went through that statistic, right? 75% of domestic labor is unpaid and performed by women and performed as caregiving most often. You have to be adaptable. Children are not the same every day. I should know, right? As a teacher, caregiving to the elderly, it's not the same. You have to be adaptable. But these next ones I wanted to give a little bit more definition on so that we're clear. Receptivity. So a lot of times when you talk about feminine energy, people confuse that with the concept of being receptive with being submissive. And you'll hear that a lot online, especially in red pill type of videos. The woman should just be receptive and submit. And it's just like, you're just supposed to receive and that's it. And that's not really what receptive energy is. For an empowered woman, it's the ability to listen deeply and be receptive to others' viewpoints and experiences, even if you don't agree. It doesn't mean that you now have to submit to their ideology or whatever it is that they're saying. It's just that it's your ability to receive and allow others to have their own experience and not necessarily trying to control it. Yes, and it's part of adapting. Emotional intelligence or even receptivity to, I talk about that when people block, what is it? Compliments, right? That's a block in your receiving energy. Somebody's trying to say that you look nice and, oh, no, I don't. My hair is so messed up, or this jacket's so cheap, or I look horrible today. That's a block. Being able to allow somebody to give you a compliment, that's a block in your receiving energy. So think about how that would show up at work. Somebody's trying to nominate you for a promotion or congratulate you on something, and you're downplaying what you just did and blocking it. Right? Oh, I don't know if I have the confidence for that, or, oh, it really wasn't that great. No, allow, receive. Emotional intelligence. This is a big part of leveraging the feminine advantage, because it's not about being cut off from your emotions. It's about having a high level of self-awareness and emotional resilience that allows you to navigate and manage your own emotions effectively. You feel them and then express them to your benefit. You manage them to your benefit because emotions are just information. But we don't want to be in a place, and I know this happens because women share with me all day long that they feel very emotionally volatile or out of balance at work, feeling very easily triggered and feeling like the emotions just overwhelm them, especially in professional environments when they're upset. So you need to get to a place of emotional self-regulation that allows you to be in touch with what's going on inside and not have it overwhelm you and override your nervous system and cause you to act in a way that later isn't to your benefit. Okay, so sensitivity, this is something that women get teased for a lot, being too sensitive, but it's actually a strength when you think about it. It's your ability to respond to the needs and feelings of others, being sensitive, being aware, along with a capacity for empathy and understanding. This is what makes women great leaders, is their sensitivity. So the definition of great leadership is changing. These are feminine energy traits that belong in the workplace that you can use to your advantage. So before we wrap up today, I want you to describe the type of woman you want to be at work and how you want to feel based on our conversation today. So I want you almost to create an avatar or, an alter ego, if you will. And I want you to describe the type of woman you want to be at work and how you want to feel based on our conversation today. Thinking about soft power and tapping into your feminine energy at work. I'll give you a moment. Thinking about how you want to show up, what traits or characteristics you want to be exuding and embodying. I want to be the type of woman everyone at work respects and takes seriously. Love that. I want to feel centered even when other employees try to throw me off. I want to be easygoing even in stressful situations. Rosa, I like this. Rosa glows, uplifts, uses her intuition to guide and inspire others to follow. There's a little something in the way, to follow her vision of a joyful and blissful life. That sounds really lovely. I want to feel confident in my decisions at work and not second guess myself around people of power. Definitely. I guess the word work blocks me a bit. I want to go with peace in my heart and just be happy and feel like I'm nurturing my garden when going instead of feeling depleted. Yes. And it starts with you. So before I came on to tonight's class, if you all were on the live stream that I was doing on Instagram, I know Roxette was there, maybe some other people were there. I love getting ready for work. I love getting ready for work. I put so much love, care, and attention into myself before I even show up for work, and it makes me excited. So for example, I made sure I had a delicious meal because I had to finish preparing for our meeting tonight and finish the presentation and everything like that. So I ordered some food while I was working and made sure I had plenty to eat, plenty to drink. I played nice music while I was working. And then before coming on tonight, because I had worked out this morning, I took a shower, put on my favorite lotions, did my hair, did my makeup. Even if it's just for me to see, I got ready. I put so much love and care and attention into my garden that I'm showing up with that honey energy, right? Because I want you to keep that visualization in your mind. Go back to that dry, crispy plant and the beautiful garden. It starts with you when you really invest in loving on yourself before, during, and after. That will help a great deal because you should not be feeling like everything is a struggle and you're feeling extremely depleted. Remember, the driving question is, how can I make this easier? How can I make this easier and more enjoyable? We want to focus on the attraction and not the forcing, not being the disciplinarian within ourselves in the authoritative top down, you must, you know what I mean? You must suffer through this. Find the joy, the ease, and the pleasure, wherever that is. So, how do we develop charm and soft power as a woman? We do inner work, which helps us work on our mindset, which helps us eradicate the insecurities and the self-doubt and the lack of confidence. And then we work on skill development. Skill development gives us the actual skills that we're going to be using in real time with people in our communication. And the skill work helps us with our confidence as well, because a surgeon is not confident the first day that she goes to medical school, right? Because she hasn't practiced, she hasn't learned the skills to do surgery yet. So how could she be confident? So if you don't feel confident, I want you to stop and think, is there a solution? How can I make this easier? What skill can I actually practice that would give me the confidence? And start seeing it as something that is achievable and there is a solution for it. Confidence, yes, we do work on confidence and insecurities in the mindset, but you have to pair it with something in your real life. You have to pair it with skill practice so that you actually are prepared then in the moment, right? So when we talk about, you know, being more charming in conversation and working on the communication skills, problem solving, etc., you want to actually practice those things so that it feels like you have tools in your toolbox when you show up at work and it's happening in front of you. It's not just something that you think about in your mind. So the way to develop the charisma and charm and soft power as a woman is through these two things. Inner work, or working on your mindset, provides individuals with the tools, insights, and practices necessary to cultivate self-awareness, emotional regulation, mindfulness, personal growth, and authenticity, all of which are foundational for achieving self-mastery and living a more fulfilling and empowered life. So if you are not already doing inner work, you're going to start. Inner work is a process of reflecting on your own thoughts and beliefs, which then trigger emotions, which trigger our choices in life. But inner work is a process of reflecting, evaluating, and replacing the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that you have about yourself and about the world. So for example, a great mindset example that I used to use in my dance career all the time was with every practice, I see improvement, right? Because people would say, oh, it's so hard. There's no way I could do that. There's no way I could be graceful. I've always been awkward. That is a fixed and limited mindset. You have a belief that you are not capable of learning something. And so therefore that belief around something being too hard for you, it plays out in real life, and you literally block yourself from even trying. So working on somebody's mindset, changing their thoughts and beliefs around something really shifts your life, because your perceptions about yourself, your self-concept, and your beliefs and feelings about this world determine the choices that you make. And the choices that you make, the actions, are what get you results. So if you believe that, for example, you'll never get the executive job, then you likely won't, because that's a strong belief that you have. And you won't make the choices necessary to learn the skills in order to do it. So mindset is extremely important. That's where we do self-reflection and inner work on our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, and we reprogram our mind. We reset our mind to a place that is going to benefit us. And we choose the thoughts and feelings that we want to have that match up with the future that we're trying to create for ourselves or the dream life that we want. So mindset is extremely important. And then as much as we're doing mindset, you have to have something practical. You have to have a skill that you're using in your real life, because just working on your mind is only a piece of it. And I have a framework that I use in my courses and in my teachings that you can learn to reprogram your mind with. But skill development includes a focus on social skills and graces related to communication and networking, including nonverbal communication. So you can practice these things. Body language is a skill, right? Posture is something you can learn and practice. Confident posture. Moving with grace is something that you can learn and practice through learning how to slow down and learning the techniques. Communication and networking, having social graces and charm in conversation is something that you can practice. So I've done trainings before and intensives where we've talked about, how to connect with people with your feminine energy and connect from the heart, how to give compliments that go beyond the superficial, how to start a conversation with someone, what questions you can ask about them to generate an interesting conversation that establishes a connection with somebody that goes beyond just, hi, how are you? What do you do for work? Right? That's not very charming. That's not very alluring. That's not very attractive. So there are actual skills that we can learn in our communication and in our ability to show up in our energetic presence that shift that. And so an emphasis on developing skills related to feminine energy, relating to creativity, intuition, and collaboration is important as well. So these two together help us develop our soft power. The inner work and the quote unquote external work, the things that show up in our everyday. I think maybe, hang on. Maybe I put this a little out of order. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to get to questions in just a moment, but I wanted to talk about what's next. Because we're almost 90 minutes in, so there's only so much that I can talk about in these master classes. But what's next, if you are really interested in cultivating your soft power and leveraging your feminine energy at work, I'm going to be hosting an intensive, which will be a 2-day virtual retreat that will have live trainings, high value coursework, meaning extra coursework in addition to the live trainings that I'm going to host. I'm going to create additional things for you to use and practice, along with resources, so like PDF documents with more tips and more trainings, etc., to help you reclaim your feminine powers of attraction and create your dream professional life. This is a feminine leadership training for women who are currently in leadership positions or just seeking to become the leaders of their own lives. So we are now getting into leadership training, and it is never too early to do so. But if you heard, right, the definition of soft power is actually a definition of leadership. That's what this is. That's what this is, and that's why it's so important. So this is a mindset and a skill training for women who are serious about attracting the life that they dream of. Using your femininity to your advantage, not going the hard power route and trying to force or push or manipulate or control your way there. We are choosing a different option. And so I wanted to share some client results, just to talk about some successes that I've already had with some of my clients. And this isn't even from teaching them about soft power, but really helping them connect with their feminine energy. One of my clients recently shared with me that she received higher leadership scores at work simply from tapping into her feminine energy and working on her energetic presence and body language. She didn't do anything new at work. She didn't take on more responsibility. She didn't do anything extra. She didn't volunteer for a committee. She literally did nothing besides tap into her feminine energy from our sessions and work on her body language. And she received higher leadership scores at work. My clients often report to me that they have increased feelings of composure and calmness, that their anxiety starts to go down when we do this work together. They feel lighter. One of my clients shared with me that she's finishing her professional program at school right now, and a lot of her classmates and professors were commenting on how composed she was and her mindset as it related to her studies. And she credited me for a large part of that, a large part of teaching her about mindset and tapping into kind of the feminine. So this is really, really beneficial. Some quotes, not fell, but I feel like I'm softer with myself. I was very harsh and very self-critical, and I've become a lot more gentle and kinder to myself. Before we started working together, I was always go, go, go. I wasn't prioritizing my pleasure. And we know when we stop prioritizing the pleasure, that's when we end up as the crispy plant. And you can't use your powers of attraction, your soft power, when you are the crispy plant. So we have to recenter our pleasure. And then stopping, getting stopped while you're out and about. Sorry if this is a weird compliment, but you have excellent posture. When you work on the grace and the poise, you will start being complimented. This is a message I receive all the time from my clients, and I love it. Feminine energy course. I love the self-reflection prompts. Makes such a huge difference in my life. Thank you for helping showing women that it's okay to be feminine, graceful, and confident. I find that a very attractive quality in a woman. And when you hear attractive, I want you to stop immediately thinking about, oh, but I don't want the attention of a man. Attractive means to attract. That means you are pulling things towards you, opportunities, friendship, joy, experiences, networks, businesses, clients, whatever it is. When somebody calls you attractive, pay attention to it and lean into it. That is a very, very high compliment. That is something that politicians sit around and think about trying to make it happen. That's what companies spend thousands of dollars on when it comes to their marketing, to make their products attractive. Being attractive is a highly valuable quality. So this intensive is going to be on June 17th and 18th. And we're going to have our live sessions in the evening around this time, from 5 to 6:30 Central Time. And then there's additional coursework and resources provided for you. So this is a mindset and skills training to upgrade your feminine powers of attraction. You will learn how to, as we talked about tonight, the importance, but we will learn how to master your thoughts and upgrade your mindset, become more confident, become more poised and graceful, become more charming in your communication skills, learn how to play chess, not checkers, with your energy. So being strategic with your energy as a woman. you know how the queen rules the board while everybody else is moving around, doing all that sort of thing? You want to be the queen. Tapping into your feminine energy at work and using your femininity to your advantage as a leader. That is the goal of this program. So I have a special offer for you. Of course, the recordings will be provided to all who cannot attend live, and we have 2 live sessions, but as I listed, there's quite a bit that I'm putting into this training, so the additional coursework and resources will be somewhat significant. Early bird registration right now for the next 24 hours is at $199. So if this interests you, I highly recommend that you take advantage of it. But I just wanted to go ahead and let you know what I was planning, because I hope this class has shown you there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot to dig into when it comes to this concept. So that's what I'm going to be providing in my upcoming intensive. So now is the time for questions. About anything that we talked about, etc. I'd love to hear it. You're welcome. Thank you, Nadia. And we'll be referring you to others who are into this feminine study. Please do let them know. So even if it's not right for you or you can't do it right now, you might know someone that you would like to recommend it to. Is the Feminine 101 program content included? I'm beginner and not working right now, so I wonder where to start. It's not going to be included in this intensive, but I highly recommend that as a separate training. So this one is really going to be focused on leadership skills. Ubiquitous pole dancer, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, so thanks a lot for this training, and it's really, you know, more and more eye-opening because I've been to some trainings already. And I was just wondering, you know, because I really feel that it's really effective advice. I just kind of, you know, when you go out in the world and you get kind of bashed, I would say, how how do you kind of keep going with what you have in plan for yourself? Because it's sometimes, you know, for instance, I take an example. I'm going to finish my last 2 years of law degree, and so I'm going to get a master's, and I took a year out of the program, and now that I'm going back in, I already feel, you know, kind of, you know, the rushing energy and the fact that everyone is kind of, you know, hard on themselves, and you should be hard on yourself too, and all of this. And I feel like each of the time, and you know, the more and more I am preparing for that, I have to kind of keep going to, okay, slowing down, etc. And I don't feel like it's becoming automatic. So what should I do to make it more intuitive in my life, and you know, how to kind of really become kind of this woman?
Always go back to this image in your mind. The choice that you're making in this moment to rush and neglect yourself, is it taking you here? Or what choice can you make in the moment that leads you here? Now, finishing a law degree, finishing anything of that magnitude, there are going to be periods of stress that are somewhat unavoidable. But for me, I'll say, for example, if I have a period of stress like that with work, I do a lot of planning ahead of time. So I make the day that, you know what I mean, is the most stressful for me the easiest. I pick out my outfit ahead of time. I prepare food ahead of time or order groceries ahead of time. I make sure I get more sleep. I do a lot of preventative sort of care in those moments to make sure that, for example, if you're, you know, completing a bunch of papers or schoolwork and it's really stressful and you're rushing around, now you don't have to open the fridge and it's empty. You know what I mean? It's those self-care things that you start planning for and preparing for that then make it easier for you to show up here. So you're not completely neglecting yourself. And it just takes a little bit of extra planning and consideration and strategic planning and consideration, which is again something I find to be very feminine energy based. And especially having been a school teacher for so long, right? You're not going to take the whole field trip out to a sunny field with zero shade and zero drinks with 100 children who are going to get thirsty and tired and all start getting really cranky. You have to plan ahead. So how can you make it easier for yourself? How can you make it more enjoyable? And you focus on you, and you don't listen to the people who are forcing themselves and pushing and getting into this territory. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It does. It's kind of really kind of trying to take everything easy, not rushing, and prepare and doing what I can, but not like not forcing myself. And yeah, I'll try to act on that. Thank you so much.
Making a schedule, making a routine, getting into a rhythm would
Okay.
really be helpful. You're gonna
Thank you.
You're gonna do great. Will you continue adding courses to your site discussing other areas of feminine energy? Absolutely. I have quite a bit that I would like to create. But this is what I'm focused on right now is this soft power training. So yes, I have quite a bit that I would like to work on, but I think the most important thing here that I want to convey is that your feminine energy, like we were just talking about in terms of how to handle the stress and the rushing, it's more than just, oh, this feels good and I'm doing a face mask. Like where it really matters is in our work life. That is such a big part of our lives as women. So you don't want to feel compartmentalized, like, oh, I get to be feminine when I'm at home for an hour before I have to wake up and go join in the rat race again. How can we start integrating these practices into our everyday life and into our work life so that we stay here and we are attracting what we desire by cultivating our powers of attraction? So that's the ultimate goal, is for it to become integrated, because you should be experiencing a life of pleasure. It doesn't mean that there aren't difficult moments and situations. When I rush, it looks a lot different now. I'm still rushing, but I'm not losing control. And it's just a moment in time. So if we think of feminine energy as nature, and going back to sort of ubiquitous pole dancers question, nature has storms, but they pass. So your nervous system should not be stuck in the storm state all the time, in the rushing state all the time. It is a storm, it is a moment, it is a day or a couple of days that you need to, you know what I mean, get through, but it is not the default setting. This is what you want to make your default setting. And then working on your grace and your composure and your strategies and your skills so that you can get through those periods in your life where you are really working on achieving without sacrificing this part of yourself. Because achievement is wonderful, but you don't want to get to the graduation day or the finish line or the promotion or start your business or whatever it is and feel completely exhausted because you pushed yourself so hard and neglected yourself so much that you got to the achievement, but this is how you feel. You can go to the finish line like this over here. That is what we want to work on. You can have the achievement and the feminine energy at the same time. So let me know if you have any more questions. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening. I really loved our conversation today, and I do hope that it opened your eyes to maybe some new concepts that you hadn't previously thought of. And if you are interested in continuing this work with me, the registration is open for the mini intensive. I would love to have a live training because I love doing live trainings and preparing for them and getting ready. It's a very joyful experience for me. But this will become a course later on. And after I do the live trainings, the prices always go up when you purchase the course later on. So if it's something that you're interested in, I would go ahead and do the early bird registration and consider attending live. Okay. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate your time. And I'll be reaching back out at some point, maybe to get some feedback and check in and see how these concepts and things that we talked about today impacted you. I'd love, even if it's, even if the intensive isn't right for you right now, that's fine. But I would love to hear how some of these concepts and topics that we talked about tonight are working for you in a week or two and what's coming up for you. So don't be shy to share, and thank you again. And I'm sure I will see some of you soon. All right. Have a good evening.